Have you ever felt that sudden emptiness when someone you care about begins to pull away? That quiet shift when her replies grow shorter, her tone colder, her presence fainter, and you can feel her slipping through your fingers yet you don't know why. It's a pain that burns deeper than words, because it's not just her distance you feel, it's the echo of rejection, uncertainty, and self-doubt whispering inside your mind. You replay every moment, every conversation, searching for what went wrong. You overanalyze texts, second-guess your tone, your words, your actions, and the more you think, the heavier it feels. That silence begins to eat at you. You start questioning your worth, wondering if you weren't enough, if maybe you should have done more, cared more, said less. But pause for a moment. Breathe. What if her distance isn't your punishment, but your invitation? An invitation to wake up, to grow, to remember who you are before the need for her validation began to define your peace. The truth is, emotional distance is a mirror. It reflects not her absence, but your dependence. When someone begins to pull away, your instinct is to chase. Not because you love her more, but because you fear losing what you think gives you value. Yet real strength isn't found in clinging tighter. It's found in letting go enough to remember your own worth. You see, being ignored triggers one of the deepest fears in the human mind, the fear of abandonment. Psychologists call it an attachment response. Your brain mistakes emotional distance for danger. That's why your chest tightens, your thoughts race, and you feel restless. It's not weakness, it's biology. But what separates the emotionally strong from the desperate is awareness. The ability to notice the pain without letting it control your behavior. Because every time you chase what's running from you, you teach your mind that your value depends on being chosen. And that belief slowly destroys your confidence, your peace, and your power. So instead of asking, "Why is she ignoring me?" start asking, "What is this silence trying to teach me?" Maybe it's showing you that you've lost balance, that you gave too much of yourself trying to prove you were worth keeping. Maybe it's reminding you to stop seeking your reflection in her eyes and start finding it within your own. Distance hurts, yes, but it also reveals. It reveals where your confidence truly stands when love, attention, and approval are taken away. Don't fight her distance. Don't beg for her presence. Use the silence as fuel to reconnect with your purpose, your identity, your peace, because the moment you stop trying to make her stay, you start to regain your power. You start to rise above the emotional storm, and remember that your worth isn't measured by who responds to your messages, but by how deeply you respect yourself, even when no one else does. If you stay till the end of this message, you'll discover how to turn that pain into presence, how to transform rejection into rebirth. Because this isn't about her walking away, it's about you walking back to yourself. And once you learn that truth, no silence, no distance, no absence will ever have power over you again. When she starts to pull away, your first instinct is to chase. You want to fix it. You want to remind her of who you are, what you shared, how it felt. You tell yourself that if you just say the right thing, she'll come back. But every time you reach out, every time you try to make her feel something she no longer feels, you push her further away. Because the truth is, people don't respond to pressure, they respond to presence. And when you chase, you stop being present. You become anxious, reactive, desperate for reassurance. That energy doesn't draw her closer, it suffocates the space where attraction once lived. You start texting more, checking your phone every few minutes, trying to read between the lines of her short replies. But all that does is deepen the imbalance. She feels your need, not your strength. She senses your insecurity, not your peace. And the more you try to pull her closer, the more she resists. Because attraction cannot survive in desperation. What once felt like connection now feels like weight. The more you try to control it, the faster it slips through your hands. This is where most people lose themselves, in the panic of losing control. But what you have to understand is that control was never the goal. Connection flows when both people are free. You can't force love to stay. You can only become the kind of person it wants to stay with. And that doesn't happen through begging or convincing. It happens through silence, through patience, through the quiet strength of self-respect. When someone pulls away, it's natural to want answers. You want closure, clarity, explanation. But sometimes the most powerful response is no reaction at all, because silence communicates what words never can. That you value yourself too much to fight for someone who's already decided to leave. That kind of restraint demands maturity. It's not coldness, it's composure. It's knowing that your peace matters more than your pride. The mind will tempt you to break that silence, to send that message, to do something, anything, to fill the void. But the void is where your power grows. It's in the stillness where your emotions settle, your thoughts clear, and your confidence rebuilds. Every moment you resist the urge to chase, you train your mind to detach from validation. And that's how you shift from powerless to powerful, by mastering your emotional impulse. Understand this clearly: attention doesn't equal affection, and silence doesn't mean your worth has decreased. Her distance does not define your value, your response does. The man who panics loses control. The man who pauses, observes, and chooses peace gains it. The energy you bring to the moment either repels or attracts. And nothing is more magnetic than calm confidence, the kind that says, "I want you, but I don't need you to feel complete." This is the trap of chasing. It tricks you into believing that love can be earned by effort, when in reality it's sustained by balance. The more you chase, the less mystery remains. The less mystery, the less attraction. What you think will fix the problem often destroys it completely. The paradox is simple. When you stop trying so hard to be seen, that's when your presence starts to speak louder than your words. And if you can hold your ground here, in this place of silence, uncertainty, and restraint, you will begin to sense a deeper truth. The one who controls their emotions controls the connection. The one who doesn't chase commands respect. The one who values peace over validation becomes unshakable. And that, right there, is where real attraction begins. Not in pursuit, but in power. When someone distances themselves, silence becomes the language of truth. You may not hear the words, but her actions are speaking loud enough. She's saying, "I need space, I'm not sure," or sometimes, "I've already made my choice." And while your mind wants to decode every reason, your heart wants to resist it. But distance is never random. It's communication without conversation. When she pulls back, something in the dynamic has shifted. Maybe it's interest fading, maybe it's emotional confusion, or maybe she's testing your stability. Either way, her silence carries a message, and the first step to power is learning to read it without letting it destroy your peace. The biggest mistake you can make is taking that silence personally. You start assuming it's your fault, that you weren't funny enough, smart enough, attractive enough. But the truth is, her distance says more about her emotional state than it does about your worth. People withdraw for many reasons: fear, confusion, emotional overload, loss of spark, or simply because their priorities have changed. Yet your mind, fueled by insecurity, takes it as rejection. It creates a false story that you've lost something, when in reality, you've just been given the opportunity to see things clearly. You cannot control how someone feels, but you can control how you interpret their distance. If you see it as rejection, it will break you. If you see it as revelation, it will build you. Every time someone withdraws, the universe gives you a moment of truth, a mirror reflecting what you need to heal. Do you depend on validation to feel worthy? Do you lose your peace when love becomes uncertain? These are the questions that turn pain into wisdom. The silence that feels unbearable is also sacred. It's the space where clarity grows. When you stop trying to fill the gap with explanations and emotions, you start to hear the truth your anxiety hides. Maybe she lost interest. Maybe she never had the same depth of connection you did. Maybe she's dealing with something she can't express. Whatever it is, chasing won't change it. Acceptance will. Because when you accept the truth of the moment, You stop fighting reality, and that's where strength begins. Understand this. A woman's distance is not an ending, it's a signal. It's life's way of showing you where you stand, what energy you're giving off, and how much power you've handed over. The more you react to her silence, the louder your fear speaks. But the more you center yourself, the more your silence begins to speak for you. Silence says, I respect your space, but I also respect mine. It says, I don't chase confusion, I choose peace. That kind of silence doesn't push her away. It reminds her of the strength she once felt drawn to. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You show that your emotions don't control you, you control them. And when you reach that point, her distance no longer feels like rejection. It becomes information. It teaches you what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You begin to realize that love isn't proven by how much you hold on, but by how gracefully you can let go when it's no longer being returned. So stop overthinking her silence. Let it be what it is. Don't chase closure. Create it within yourself. Because the moment you stop trying to understand why she pulled away and start understanding what you deserve, everything changes. Her distance may have started the silence, but your strength will define what that silence becomes. Pulling back is not weakness, it's wisdom. When someone begins to withdraw, the instinct to chase is strong, but the discipline to pause is stronger. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop surrendering your peace to uncertainty. It's a shift from emotional reaction to emotional power. Because every time you chase what's running away, you teach yourself that your happiness depends on someone else's presence. But when you pull back, you remind your mind and your heart that peace begins within you, not around you. There's a kind of strength in silence that words can't match. When you stop explaining, convincing, and proving, your energy starts to speak louder. It says, I know my worth, I don't need to beg for clarity. That kind of stillness carries authority. It shifts the balance of energy without confrontation, without anger, without games. It tells the world and her that your emotions don't dictate your decisions. And that kind of power is rare, because most people let rejection turn them bitter or desperate. But those who learn to stay calm in distance become magnetic without even trying. When you pull back, you create space, not just between you and her, but within yourself. That space is where reflection begins. You start to see where you gave too much, where you ignored your own needs just to keep her close. You start noticing the difference between love and attachment, between connection and dependence. This self-awareness is where your evolution begins. You stop operating from fear, fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten. Instead, you start acting from alignment. The understanding that what's meant for you won't require you to sacrifice your self-respect to keep it. Psychologically, distance creates polarity. It shifts the dynamic. When you stop giving attention, it forces the other person to feel your absence. Humans are wired to notice loss. We value what's not easily available. But this is not about manipulation, it's about energy. When you pull your energy inward, it naturally becomes more powerful, more focused, more attractive. The same silence that once felt like pain starts to become your presence, unspoken, but deeply felt. That's how emotional strength works. You stop reaching outward and begin radiating inward. The moment you pull back with calm confidence, something changes. The noise in your head begins to fade. The questions stop screaming. The anxiety quiets down. You realize you never needed her response to feel whole. You just needed your own attention back. And when you start giving that to yourself, through peace, purpose, and patience, you become untouchable. Her distance no longer controls you. It becomes neutral, almost irrelevant, because your focus has shifted from, why is she leaving, to why was I chasing? Pulling back isn't about making her miss you. It's about making yourself remember you. It's about creating space for your self-worth to breathe again. Because no connection, no matter how deep, should cost you your peace. The right person will meet you halfway. They won't make you beg for their presence. So instead of breaking under distance, use it. Let it refine your strength. Let it teach you detachment without resentment, love without desperation, and silence without fear, because the one who learns to master their reaction to distance masters their life. And the moment you reach that level of calm, nothing, not even her silence, can shake your peace again. When you stop chasing, the silence around you begins to reveal who you truly are. Without the noise of constant pursuit, you finally hear your own thoughts, your own needs, your own truth, and that's where the rebuilding begins. Because the pain of being ignored isn't meant to break you, it's meant to wake you up. It shows you where your self-worth has been hiding behind validation. It exposes how much of your peace depended on someone else's attention. And when that realization hits, it hurts. But that pain is sacred. It's the pain that forces transformation. This is the moment where you rebuild, not for her, not for anyone else, but for yourself. Rebuilding your inner value starts with shifting your focus from what's missing to what's within. Every ounce of energy you once spent overthinking, analyzing, and reaching out, bring it home. Invest it back into yourself. Strength doesn't grow from control, it grows from redirection. When you channel your emotion into self-improvement, something powerful happens. Your pain becomes fuel, your silence becomes strength, and your growth becomes undeniable. You start by remembering that your worth isn't conditional. It's not earned through approval or attention, it's innate. You had value before she entered your life, and you'll have value long after she's gone. The mistake most people make is attaching their identity to how others treat them. But your value doesn't fluctuate with someone's interest. You define it through your actions, your discipline, your self-respect. When you focus on becoming stronger, calmer, more purposeful, the world starts reflecting that energy back to you. Every time you choose growth over reaction, you reclaim a piece of yourself. When you start hitting the gym instead of hitting send. When you read to expand your mind instead of rereading her messages. When you use silence not to wait, but to evolve. That's when the shift begins. You stop being the version of yourself that needed validation. You become the version that commands respect, not through words, but through presence. That quiet confidence becomes magnetic. It doesn't demand attention, it attracts it. Psychologically, humans are drawn to strength, not arrogance, not ego, but the kind of strength that radiates calm certainty. When you no longer seek to prove your worth, people begin to feel it. They sense it in your tone, your body language, your energy. You move differently. You speak less, but what you say carries more weight. That's the result of rebuilding your inner value. You no longer need to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. And it's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring in a different direction, toward your goals, your purpose, your peace. You begin to see that self-worth isn't a thought, it's a lifestyle. It's how you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's how you respond when life tests your patience. It's how you rise when rejection tries to define you. Every moment of silence, every unanswered message, every cold distance becomes a reminder that your energy is too valuable to be wasted chasing what resists. The person you're becoming through this process is stronger, wiser, calmer. You no longer seek love to feel complete. You bring completeness into love. That's real confidence, not built on being wanted but on being whole. So let the silence rebuild you, let the distance refine you, because the day you stop trying to prove your worth to someone else is the day you start living in your true power. And nothing is more attractive than that. There's something fascinating about what happens when you stop showing up where your energy isn't valued. The very absence that once made you anxious becomes your greatest advantage. When you stop reaching out, when you stop trying to be noticed, when you begin to live with calm detachment, that's when people start to notice your silence. Because psychologically, what's always available becomes invisible, and what disappears suddenly becomes valuable. This is the law of human attraction, the scarcity principle. We are wired to desire what feels uncertain, to chase what seems slightly out of reach. And when you step back with confidence instead of anger, you trigger that instinct in others. But the true reward of this isn't about making her miss you. It's about what happens inside you when you no longer depend on being seen. You begin to feel powerful in your stillness. You no longer crave attention to feel alive because you've found something far greater, peace. And peace has its own gravity. It pulls without effort. It commands without force. It attracts without begging. That's the power of absence. It teaches both you and them the value of presence. When you detach, your energy becomes scarce, and what is scarce becomes sacred. The same silence that once hurt you begins to heal you. You realize that the more you withdraw from needing someone's validation, the more grounded and magnetic you become, because emotional independence radiates an energy that people can't explain but always feel. It's calm, unbothered, and quietly confident. Says, I am whole, with or without you. And that vibration changes everything. Think about it. The person who is constantly chasing approval lives in emotional scarcity. Their energy screams, I need you to make me feel enough. But the person who is content, focused, and unattached emits abundance. Their energy says, I am already enough. One repels, the other attracts. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. You stop begging to be chosen because you've finally chosen yourself. And when you choose yourself completely, you automatically become the kind of person others are drawn to, not out of pity, but out of curiosity, respect, and admiration. Absence isn't about playing games, it's about protecting your energy. It's about realizing that your silence carries more power than your words ever could. It shows emotional maturity. The kind that doesn't crumble when attention fades, the kind that doesn't chase confusion. The kind that knows peace is more valuable than validation. Because when your peace becomes non-negotiable, everything changes. You stop being reactive, you start being responsive. You stop demanding love, you start embodying it. And that shift is what makes people gravitate back toward you. The paradox of attraction is that it thrives on balance. Closeness with independence, interest without obsession, affection without desperation. When you stop giving everything away, you restore balance. And from that balance, your energy becomes rare again. You stop being one of many and you start standing apart. That's what true emotional control looks like. Not pretending to be cold, not suppressing your feelings, but mastering the art of holding your ground when your emotions are screaming for attention. Let your absence speak. Let it echo your worth. Let it remind both you and the world that silence isn't weakness. It's strength refined. Because when your peace becomes louder than your pain, you no longer chase, you attract. And that is the moment you understand the real power of distance. It's not about losing someone, it's about finding yourself again and becoming the kind of person who never fears being ignored. There comes a point when your silence no longer feels like distance, but presence. When she starts to notice the shift in your energy, it's not because you've done anything dramatic. It's because you've stopped reacting. You've stopped explaining, defending, proving, and chasing. And in that calm stillness, something powerful happens. The energy that once flowed outward, desperate to be seen, has turned inward and become unshakable. People sense that. She senses that. The same silence that once made her feel in control now makes her curious. Because when someone can't predict your reaction anymore, they begin to pay attention. This is the psychology of power. It's not loud, it's not forceful, it's not aggressive. It's calm, composed, and collected. It's in the way you hold yourself when others expect you to break. It's in the way you walk away when they expect you to chase. When you no longer respond from emotion but from peace, you disrupt the pattern. You change the script. Because every relationship, romantic or otherwise, runs on energy. When you were chasing, you were feeding her certainty. She knew where you stood, she knew she could pull back and you'd come closer. But when you stopped, the energy flipped. Suddenly her certainty disappeared. Now she feels what you once felt, uncertainty. The moment you become unpredictable in your peace, the dynamic changes. She starts to notice that your absence isn't just physical, it's emotional. You're no longer available in the way you once were. And that creates a void. Not because you're trying to create one, but because you've learned to protect your energy. That quiet detachment is magnetic. It carries a strength that words can't describe. The kind that doesn't beg for attention. It commands it, because people are drawn to what they can't fully figure out. When you stop chasing, you stop being predictable. When you stop explaining, you become mysterious again. But this isn't about playing hard to get, it's about becoming hard to shake. You've reached a point where your value no longer depends on how someone treats you, but on how you treat yourself. You no longer give energy to confusion, to mixed signals, to emotional games. You value your peace too much to trade it for temporary validation. And that, more than anything, is what draws people in. Your stability, your focus, your self-respect. When she notices the change, she might reach out. Not always to reconnect, sometimes just to test if she still has power over you. But you'll know the difference. You'll feel it instantly because you've grown beyond that place of needing to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. Her attention won't shake you, her silence won't define you, and her distance won't wound you. Because your worth no longer moves with the tides of her emotion. It's anchored within you. That's when true attraction begins. Not because you tried to make her notice, but because you stopped needing her to. You became the calm in the storm, the one thing she can't control or fully understand. That kind of power doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't prove. It simply is. And when your presence carries that kind of weight, people will either rise to meet you or fade away on their own. Either way, you stay grounded. Because once you've mastered the art of emotional stillness, nothing outside of you can ever disturb the peace within you again. Letting go is not weakness. It's the highest form of strength. It's standing in front of what you wanted and saying, even if it doesn't come back, I'll still be okay. That's power. The kind that can't be taken, only built. When you finally release the need to control how things end, you create space for something greater to begin. The truth is, most people never find peace because they're too busy trying to rewrite what's already been written. But healing starts the moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start saying, what is this teaching me? Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means you stop living in the memory of what's already gone. It means you free your heart from the illusion that someone else's presence is the source of your happiness. Because it never was. Happiness was never something you got from her attention. It was something you temporarily remembered while she was around. When she left, she didn't take your worth with her. She only revealed where you had hidden it. That's the gift inside the pain. Every rejection, every cold silence, every unanswered message, they're not punishments, they're awakenings. When you stop fighting to be understood, you start understanding yourself. When you stop chasing closure, you realize you don't need it. Closure isn't something another person gives you. It's something you decide for yourself. It's the moment you look at the situation and say, I've learned what I needed to learn, and now I release it. That's real maturity. It's choosing peace over explanation, growth over resentment, and freedom over attachment. Because nothing binds you tighter than the need to be validated by someone who's already walked away. Your energy is too sacred to keep feeding dead ends. Let go, not with bitterness but with gratitude. Thank the experience for showing you what you will no longer accept. Thank the silence for teaching you to find comfort in your own company. Thank the distance for forcing you to grow stronger roots in your own soul. The end of something is not the loss of value, it's the evolution of direction. Sometimes what you thought you wanted was never meant to stay, it was meant to shape you. The moment you surrender the outcome, life begins to open again. Your energy shifts, your heart feels lighter. You stop waiting for a text that doesn't come, and start showing up for yourself instead. You begin to notice beauty in small things again, peace in solitude, purpose in progress, joy in simplicity. This is how healing feels. Quiet, steady, liberating. You no longer need to be chosen because you've learned to choose yourself every single day. And that choice changes everything. Letting go is not losing love, It's learning a higher form of it. The kind that doesn't cling, doesn't demand, doesn't fear. It's love that starts with you and radiates outward without conditions or expectations. You stop looking back and start moving forward, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally care enough about yourself to keep walking. And as you walk away from what no longer aligns with your peace, you realize something beautiful. You never needed to prove your worth to anyone. You just needed to remember it. The distance, the silence, the ending, they were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to rebuild you into someone who no longer seeks love to feel whole, but brings wholeness wherever they go. That's what true freedom feels like: calm, clear, and untouchable.